kicking off our game jam. We are going to be making Pyroclasm, an incremental RPG, incremental idle RPG for the browser, with extensive single-player games and some multiplayer ones. Single-player features and some multiplayer ones. This is a month-long game jam. So today we're just really going to try to iron out some basics here. I'm messing around right now in Incarnate, a map making tool. Just going to try to get some inspiration. Let's see. There we go. And then we'll go back and talk about this. This is our breakdown of the areas of the game that we're going to try to sketch out today. Our tech stack is going to be Vue on the front end and PHP on the back end. And we'll see how far we get. So, let's see. Go ahead and we gotta set up our project. Hold on. Okay. All right. So, let's see. The theme of the game, or the theme of the game jam, is after the end. So, sorry about that. We are going to be taking on a Pompeii themed world in which a lot of civilizations, more than one actually, have been buried by volcanic activity. Now, some areas of the map have been completely destroyed by lava flows, but the interesting thing about a pyroclastic explosion, which is what happened with Vesuvius covering Pompeii and Mount St. Helens over here in the Pacific Northwest, is basically the mountain explodes. You have hot toxic gas comes down, kills everyone, and then ash will basically rain from the sky. But what's pretty interesting is you don't necessarily have that wall of lava that comes down and burns and just fills in all the gaps of a city. Instead, you have this loose pumice, which can be removed, which is, if you Google Pompeii and stuff like that, that's why we actually have a very intact city that's been buried for hundreds and hundreds of years, that they started excavating a couple hundred years ago. So in this particular world, we're going to come across some things like that, where the main idle loop will be digging, and then our drops that we find, yes, we will find many uses for the stone and some of the other gems and precious metals that we find, but a big part of the game will be unearthing archaeological sites that have been, for the most part, kept intact due to how they were buried. And so you'll be able to gain the knowledge, the skills, techniques, spells, etc. from these ancient civilizations. And what's very, in my mind, what is most fun about this is that if this can happen once, take Pompeii for an example. Hundreds of years ago, this happened, and pretty much it was lost to the world, right? They had to excavate it to find it. It's completely likely due to the geographical location or something like that, that hundreds of years later, another city would have been built on top. And say this happened again. So now you have this world in which it's almost like Lovecraftian in a sense, that there are layers of history there. You have a civilization from, say, for example, 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and they don't know anything about each other. They just knew that, hey, at this particular point along the river or the shoreline or up against this mountain or this forest, this is where we would have wanted to build our town, our city, or village, etc. So our characters, as we dig, will be unearthing not only what was there at the first level, but certain sites will have things at a second or third or fourth level. So it'll be pretty interesting to sort of go back in time and find different or more advanced techniques, or even maybe even more primitive ones, depending. Oops, whoa, that's a real big zoom in on that map. Sorry about that. So yeah, that is going to be the general theme of what we're going to try out here. What I want to do right now is just kind of finish up what I want to try to get across is I want some hills, something like this region. I want there to have been a natural break in the terrain, that different civilizations throughout time would have settled on different sides of different regions of this. The way the game will be, let's grab this one and see if this helps. Kind of cover in. That's too much right there. Oh yeah, I don't want my opacity up quite so high. Just give this a little bit of a grayness. Not totally in love with that, but we'll see. Throughout time, these mountain ranges, depending on your technology level, would have been impossible, right? So you would have settled down on one side of it, unbeknownst to you, or maybe beknownst to a few traders. There would have been another civilization on the other side, and they would have developed somewhat independently. So that is something I would like to explore here. And so depending on the site, depending on the site that you're building on, depending on the site that you're digging at, right? For example, if you can see my mouse, right over here on the left, maybe in this area is going to be one kingdom, right? And further up here, maybe around here, there would have been a completely different kingdom. So if we want to go very basic here, we're talking about something like the Fire Nation, the Water Nation. Keep it elemental like that, at least at this stage, to talk about it like an Earth Nation, right? Air Nation, very Avatar-esque. The thing that happened, whatever here is happening on the east side of the map, this is definitely like a lava flow. Whatever there, is going to be, you're going to have a different technique to dig that out. The stone you're going to get from it's different, basalt or obsidian, things like this, because you would have had the lava flow, and and those cities in there would have been completely wiped out, as opposed to something over here, maybe it's just been covered by ash. And then the nice thing about that volcanic ash is it's very good for growing things, and a few hundred years later you have a lush, maybe some lush land on top of it, completely hiding the fact that there is a ancient city underneath there, pretty intact. So it'll be interesting. Let's see. I just want to finish this off a little bit. I'm going to mute the mic just for a sec so you guys can't hear all the clicks. It's not muted. You can hear me? Did I completely... Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry about that. I muted the desktop audio and not the mic. My bad. For those of you that just heard me click about 1,000 times. Here, now I'm muted. Sorry about that. Okay. So, there we go. Now, this is not at all intended to be the actual game map or anything like that. I just wanted to get a sense of kind of having this in the background, as well as being able to easily communicate to people, hey, here's a world full of volcanoes and explosions, and what it is that we're trying to do here. Over the course of the next month, I'm sure we'll revisit this quite a bit, as well as using this incarnate tool. We're able to there's a lot of different map styles, a lot of the different viewpoints and stuff, completely top down like you would want in something like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder. This is more of a world map view, but you can also get the stamp set that has more, like if we were going to zoom into one of these locations and maybe have a town or something like that, so you'd see buildings, towers, wells, inns, paths, stuff like that, statues. So that is something we will kind of explore and put into the game now and then to really bring it to life. I think that'll do quite well. That'll break kind of the monotony of most PPGs. There's nothing wrong with just the text approach, but I do find the visual elements very inspiring and really helping to kind of communicate more of a story and lore and world, which from my games I really enjoy. So we will just, and I'll try to I have some wonderful way above me, the Pyroclasm logo for the time being that exists. Created by, I'm going to try to pronounce it correctly this time. Is it Rinzai? The end part sounds like chai. Is it Rinzai? She will be helping out with the graphics, trying out with the maps, helping with the programming and the content. One of the things I'd like to do today is actually hook up some Google Sheets into View so we can actually get some names of various locations or spells or skills or whatever start appearing in View as a quick and easy back end for at least content generation. So I want to touch on what we are planning here in the next month. Let me open this up, and I will try this. Hold on. Let me grab this and paste. Cool, that worked. And I'm going to transition over. Yay, cool. All right. Awesome. This is our quick and dirty breakdown of the game. And I will try to navigate you through this. These are basically all of the feature sets. And one of the most difficult parts of any project, this is not unique to software development, it's not unique to game design, it's not unique to hackathons, it's really everything humans do in life. But it comes up a lot, for me anyways, in software and game design, which is basically scope and scope management. What is all the functionality, all of the features, all of the things you want to do, right? We always have limitations. Time, cost, quality. How much time do I have? In this particular thing, we are time boxed in here at 30 days. The cost is basically whatever free time I have, Rinzai has, and whoever else may help us. So we have a limited. There's no budget to do anything like that. Quality, um, again, the higher quality it's going to take, the more development time, more cycles, more like if I really wanted to polish up that map. That map right there took me maybe 20 minutes total. If I wanted to perfect it, I could spend 2 hours on it, 6 hours on it. Oh my gosh! And then all of a sudden we've spent half the jam. So for all of these feature sets, these very high level features that I have displayed here on the screen right now, we need to determine what is our MVP, our minimal viable product, our 1.0, what is the bare minimum we can ship with and still have a fun game, right? A working, functional, fun game. There will always be things that we can enhance that 1.0 with, but we need to be very diligent, very strict. We only have so much bandwidth and time and dev work. So we, whenever we talk about these things, kind of immediately after a brainstorm, it has to be, okay, what goes in the 1.0 bucket and what's in the 2.0 bucket, right? What, when we tag it with, oh, it wouldn't be nice, or one day we'll get to it, if anything can qualify for that, it goes in the 2.0 bucket and we don't build it right now, right? If it's not essential to the game, this is not the time and place to explore fun new concepts, at least not for me, at least not for this title. We're not diving into. Some people take a hackathon as an opportunity to learn a new technology, and that's just fine. But if you try to learn something new while then trying to build working software on top of that, you're gonna end up building a lot slower, because you have to learn for the first time how do I use this language, this library, this tool, etc. And that's fine for some people, but that's not what we're going to do here. We want to make sure we have a working, fun game within 30 days. So we're going to use a PHP stack that we're familiar with. Is it the best? Everyone has different opinions on whatever. It's going to be the tech stack I've used for probably close to the last 10 years. Our front end is going to be Vue, something myself and Rinzai is familiar with for probably the last 2. We're going to use a lot of Google Sheets, something again I've been familiar with and using in different production instances and stuff like that for probably 7 or 8 years. Our database will be MySQL. Again, in today's web landscape, everyone's got different opinions, and a lot of these things have pros and cons and validity, and that's cool. What we don't have right now because of a hackathon is like an endless budget, right? Or months and months and months to learn on something. So we're going to go with MySQL. I think it's going to be just fine for this project. But it's also the thing I've got the most experience with. And, when trying to put together something in 30 days, when we're trying to do any sort of estimation, it needs to be on something that you've done before. There's no possible way you can give an estimation on brand new technology. It's a shot in the dark. The only way to give a good quality estimation is if you have data points based off historical data. That you can say, hey, the last time I used this tech stack, the last time I did MySQL, the last time I did PHP, the last time we did Vue, these were our results, and so we're more comfortable there. We will be using Bootstrap initially, we'll be using Bootstrap, period, for our front end. I'll probably just drop in a very basic boot swatch theme to get a nice dark mode. I like that just because I like the dark mode of games. Also just because default Bootstrap is a lot of white space, and that hurts my eyes. But I can imagine us customizing that theme a little bit as we start getting into week, say like 3 or 4. We do have a pile of sprite art we can bring in. We've got a pile of SVGs, different font icon libraries and stuff like that. We will dabble in later. The interface for at least the first week, we need to focus on just making a completely functional game and figuring out what the fun part is. One of the things I've noticed with a lot of online games, or just kind of devs in general, some people will go for what they think is cool, right? They'll try a lot of CSS tricks and things like that. They'll try things that are cool, and I guess I just want to say players don't show up for a game just because it has a cool effect. They show up because it's a fun way to spend their time. And so you really want to make sure you have that you have that game loop nice and fun and polished, right? Because there's plenty of people out there that are playing a game with retro graphics or no graphics. Those of us that played MUDs back in the day, the most we could hope for was some ASCII art or some colored text, but the game was still fun. And so you really want to kind of focus on that, right? You can make it be VR or AR or 3D models or whatever, and some of that stuff starts getting into the more cool side of the spectrum versus like, have you made a fun game? Do you understand the nature of play, games, rules, win conditions, right? There's a lot of psychology that goes into this, not just, hey, look what I did with CSS or some JavaScript library that has cool effects. So I'll also be, at least for a while, putting anything that people think is cool in a bucket for later in the jam, and really saying, hey, bare bones, let's make sure that when we click a button, we're getting a reaction, that the game loop is fun, that it's working well, that the performance is there. Because what are the things that are going to be the biggest detractors from this experience? It's going to be lag and bugs, non-responsiveness, if it looks crappy on mobile, those basic like user experience things. It personally, from what I've seen, it doesn't take much to make a fun game. There's plenty of people that are playing pretty simple mobile games that just have this nice little feedback loop of, I collect treasure, I click a button, I upgrade, right? If I idle long enough, I'm going to get enough loot to upgrade. And so that's also, recognize the genre of game we're in and the type of game we're trying to make. People want to accumulate stuff, feel like they're able to upgrade something, and feel like over time they're progressing. They also want the game to be able to I feel like, especially in the idle incremental field, these aren't games that you sit down and play for a certain amount of time. It's a game that you want to reset a few actions. You're going to go off to work or to class or sleep, and during that time you want to wake up and see the loot that you've accumulated. So we're going to really try to make sure that the game has a good system in place that doesn't need people too actively to be at the screen. I personally like the idea of checking in pretty frequently, but I also want to make sure that this fits well within the genre and we don't dip into more of like a online RPG excuse me, not MMO, but online RPG where the multiplayer has to feel much more responsive and active. Okay, now to talk about what I've currently got up on the screen. We're going to have a map, actually kind of what we see right here, right? A kind of a world map, and that map's going to be broken down into regions, kind of like I was describing, some themes there: fire, wind, earth, water, just as a general starting point. And then within each region are going to be nodes. Nodes are going to be your quarrying sites, your dig sites, your archaeological sites. Most of them will be towns and villages, some will be cities, some will just be interesting I guess places of interest. As you can see on this map right now, I'm planning just off the top of my head like 30 different sites, but you can't see them. They're buried under the earth. So part of the game is, of course, that you need to collect lore and knowledge and figure out where these sites are, so that you can go from your tier 1 sites to your tier 2 sites to your tier 3 sites, right? So we're sort of like uncovering history, and that's going to lead us to the next spot. The big green section here is essentially just your gathering loop. It's heavily that single player game, and it's your main idle loop there for the accumulation of drops that you'd be upgrading. A lot of kind of physical locations, and we'll get into that, some fortifications and walls and stuff like that. It's how we're going to progress our knowledge and our skills and things like that. For the most part, it's how we're going to discover different places on the map, all through these drops. The second kind of feature set down here in blue is your upgrades. We're going to have a very nice system. Upgrading is one of the most important parts of these games. It's the thing everyone does every play session. You're going to want a very smooth, easy to communicate way. Here's your next upgrade. This is the button you're going to click. This is what you need in order to click the button, whatever that quantity of currency is. This is how much you have, etc. So we're going to want that experience to feel really good. Upgrading buildings, skills, and spells. Next, we're going to jump over to combat. Combat is also going to be node-based. We're going to play around with this a little bit, and combat and battle. And actually, so like, let me just kind of draw a line here. This is really going to be the focus. We're going to try to hit all of these segments each week. I'm going to separate this game jam into 4 sprints. And I know some devs out there rolling their eyes or laughing that someone would put some project management into a game jam. I typically wouldn't for a game jam that lasts just like a weekend. But this is going to last 4 weeks. And personally, if I don't have a plan, it's just a 30-day window. And I'm going to end up coding for 2 days and then just end up with a game jam that I did, over the course of maybe 2 or 3 days, maybe 2 weekends worth. And it'd be a tiny, tiny game. I would like to try to make sure that I am setting goals of where I'd like to be a week from now, a week after that, 1 week after that, and then the final week. So I'm going to break it into sprints. We're going to use, a very simple system like that. But what I'd like to do is we're going to create some tickets on GitHub tagged to each one of these categories. Kind of the map, the upgrades, combat, the battle itself, and the boosts. I want to make sure we're making some progress on each of these systems each week, with a heavy emphasis on our single player experience here at the beginning. The map and the upgrades, that loop is most of our tickets will fall in that category, with our combat and multiplayer being on the back half. As we start to piece this together, a lot of the gathering drops are essentially fuel for what happens over on the combat and boosting side. So I want to make sure that the foundation of the game, the gathering and the map exploration and the basics of the upgrades all work. And then from there we'll move into what I think will be the more fun portion of this, where you really get the social interaction with other players. You start playing more with other players. And I guess one thing I have actually completely forgotten off this map, and we'll just put it over here in orange. And we'll see how far we get on this, but some sort of market. And so a buy, sell, sending goods. So we'll see how much we do on that. That may be a completely optional, almost like post jam feature. My hope is that there's enough going on with just the battle and raiding without the actual sharing of the economies for the game to be viable, but we'll see. A marketplace could take quite a bit. and I'd rather kind of every game has a sort of marketplace, and I don't know that there's that much innovation in a marketplace, so I'd rather try to find if there could be some innovation and something new to try in the battling and how we're going to try combat to see if that's more fun and that's what we all enjoy doing together, but we'll see. So that is the breakdown of the game. Again, the world, the theme is after the end. Our world is one that's been rocked by volcanoes, and ancient civilizations have been buried. You will choose to be kind of like, I guess this is your role play element. You'll choose to be some sort of either treasure hunter, explorer, settler, could be whatever's your motivation. Some motivation is bringing you to this particular land, and you're gonna start setting up your own town, and then again, whatever your motivation is, you're gonna start digging, and you're gonna start finding stuff, and then from there, the map is gonna unfold into the next step and the next step and the next step. So with that, let's go ahead and get our project started. I'm just gonna move a few things off my desk. Okay, we are an hour into this jam. All right. Okay, I'm gonna keep those things. Oops, sorry guys. I would love to just save this as an image so I don't have to mess with it. Here, let me do this. Transition over there. Download this as an image for right now. Okay. If you want to know more about the Game Jam, we're on Reddit. We are on Reddit, sorry. There's the PBBG community on Reddit. We're also on Discord. If you see my link above, you can join my Discord, my slyboots.studio. That's my game studio, where you can find my different ways to contact me. Hold on. Continue editing. But there you'll find my Discord link. That's the best way to keep up to date with not only this game, but the games we plan to do afterwards. These are online games that are entirely free, no microtransactions, no ads, no analytics, no third-party services. I'm not tracking any data, not sending any data anywhere. So there's no cookies or anything like that. All of this, my strategy, my hope is that it's all going to be Patreon funded, just through donations on Patreon. The games are not going to be pay to win. There's no different benefits you get for donating or not, at least not now. And if I hypothetically do that in the future, it'd be like just a base subscription, but not tiers of that or anything. Or anything that would compromise the integrity of the game or make people feel. Basically, the big thing is whenever someone enters into one of my games, I want to make sure that you can immerse into the game, because the story and the world building is very important to me. And any sort of microtransaction or reminder that, hey, I'm actually really trying to get your real life money, breaks that immersion. And there's plenty of excuses that we're definitely not going to get into in this stream, in this video, about why people use microtransactions or the justification for it, or they need to keep the server running. All of that stuff is there's varying levels of validity to all that. I'm going to try a different approach where it's not in the game itself. So we'll see how well that does. I'm hoping, but no idea until we try it. Okay, we're going to set up our GitHub. I have the map downloaded, so I can pull that up. And actually, I kind of want to post the map right underneath the title there, so we can have that. Let me see if I can do that, guys. Just a second. I just call it the map. And I'm going to bring in the map I just downloaded. Is this open? Okay, and I want to shrink the map so it's nice and tiny. There we go. A little map. There, I'm going to bring it onto the iPad view as well. There you go. Awesome. So we have our little, we have our map there. So when people are wondering what the game's going to look at here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start with GitHub. A little bit about myself, if anyone's interested. You can find more. So Slyboots.studio. It's a little bit about kind of the game studio and the philosophy. In most of the online games, my name is Tempest, IQ, Queslar, Elithor is Tempest. For those of you that have met me in the last couple years of playing these games. But my name is also it's Nick Breslin, Breslin. You can find me at nickbreslin.com and see the history of all my development. You can find me at GitHub, github.com/Nick Breslin. I have a whole bunch of open source repos, and that's one of the things I'm trying to do with Slyboots is provide a lot of open source resources for game developers. So what I'm going to do first is I actually have an open source Vue 3. Yeah, I'm going to use this template here. Let me get back to. Let's see. Vue 3 Bootstrap 5 boilerplate. And we're going to call this. I'm going to send this over to Slyboots Studio Pyroclasm. For right now, the game will be private, but I would love to share some of the source code publicly afterwards. Just want to make sure that it's in a good enough spot. I'm going to go ahead and create the repo. And we're going to get started here. One of the things that is going to be in the game. So I was thinking, as I was sharing the map there of the world and what a player's motivation is to come to this land that's been destroyed by volcanoes. Maybe you come by sea, maybe you're a seafaring, you come from a seafaring race or nation. I want one that's kind of like by dirigibles. And how I'm presenting this in the game is just text. I'm not gonna, maybe an icon. But just in the back of my mind, I was thinking just for some role play, right? Some people come by boat, some people come by air. I was talking with Rinzai. Maybe some come through the equivalent of like a dark portal or something like that, right? Like a rift. And then of course, because as is part of Slyboots, we have to work raccoons into every game. And if you ask why, it's because everyone wants them. And there's just too much empirical evidence that shows that adorable raccoons in video games are a big win. So one of these selectable races or cultures, whatever you can be, is just a whole bunch of trash pandas, and their woodland neighbors. You get some foxes, get some whatever you want, rats, ferrets, all that sort of stuff. And it's funny because when I think about the game, there's nothing that the game still makes sense, even if it is just a bunch of raccoons digging up all these ruins, learning magic, upgrading their weapons, and then going to battle stuff. So we're going to do that. One of the things we didn't discuss, and I'm just going to pop back over to kind of the plan here. One of the fun things that I couldn't figure out exactly with Rinzai yesterday was I really like the idea because all of the lore and the magic and the world is based around the explosion of these volcanoes and burying the progress of civilizations. One type of online browser game, one kind of genre or subgenre of them, basically resets every, periodically, every X amount of days or weeks or whatever. They go through seasons, and everyone's progress is reset, and then you start over from day one. Or in some cases, you could some amount of stats would persist, and then you'd play again. So this may be a post-jam feature, or it may not at all come to fruition. But I think it would be interesting if we could trigger volcanic explosions that would cover some portion of your progress, depending on how close you were to the end volcano. Again, I was talking about like what one of the things you could upgrade would be on each one of these nodes, these dig sites. You could basically put up lava prevention walls. Think like the way you would put up a wall around a sandcastle for the incoming tide, right? So I don't want to spend too much time at this point thinking about it, because we spent, I don't know, about half an hour yesterday talking about it, and there was no real good way that I was for certain saying, yes, this will be fun. In fact, we came up with more reasons why players would be pissed off, especially if you didn't understand that this was a mechanic in the game, right? Because most online games don't have this involuntary reset. That even though a lot of your stuff would persist, a good, a main part of it, the main digging loop for where you are in the world and what you're trying to unearth would essentially reset. So it may be something we explore later. I wanted to take some inspiration from like EVE Online, where there are several nodes that are safe, high security. You're not gonna lose your ship essentially in them. But if you wanted higher risk, more reward, or a different style of play, you move into the null sec or the zero sec security, where there are more PvP sort of actions. So there may be a section, if we look here on the map on the screen, if you guys can see that, if we get right around the volcano, maybe there are some nodes there where the resources are good, but periodically you will lose your progress. It will reset, at least in the dig itself. Any of the treasure you get, you get to keep, but at least at that point, players who elect to go in there understand the risk for that. And with it being at that point in the game, we're not talking about anyone that would pick up the game within the first week or anything like that, right? This would be for players that were looking for almost like end game content. I feel like making it optional game mode for players to menu select would be cool, or an entire area that allows area. Yeah, and so this is where I'm like, that big lava flow on the right side of the map, that could be definitely a sort of like, you want to set up some sort of outpost here? Cool. This is what you get from it, but there's also the risk, and at some point it's going to get, destroyed. You can try to reinforce it so that when the lava flow comes, maybe you only lose a third of it or half of it. If you don't reinforce it, you lose all of it, but whatever. The more I think about that, the more I'm just thinking that's outside of the scope of what we can pull off in the 30 days, but it would be a pretty interesting mechanic. I ended the conversation with Rinzai yesterday thinking very much about the Queslar kingdom map, that there's a map and those different tiles change periodically, and then people fight over the tiles. Well, you could think that like the reset of the map, those new tiles are basically a volcano explodes, and new riches or whatever are on the ground. The only difference is that you would need to probably reconquer them each day, as opposed to, I'm going to hold this particular location, or not each day, but each explosion. Unlike Queslar, where you can hold a tile, and as long as you hold it, it's yours. So it'd be a little bit different. But anyway, the volcano theme was definitely part of this. So, okay, we're gonna do a transition back here. going to do this. We're going to go into our Pyroclasm. Let's just see what this looks like. This is just my boilerplate. So let's see, yarn. Oh, we need to do a yarn install. And I'm not going to share too much code. I think that most people would actually just like to see the game as I throw some rectangles up on the board. But I would like to get a little bit of an outline, for each one of these areas. I'm gonna have to kind of bullshit stuff for a couple of days because we're trying to build a multiplayer game here, which means I'm gonna need a back end, and I don't think I'm gonna touch the back end until the front end starts to make sense. So let's see. Okay, and yarn serve. Let's get that up. Hey, welcome to the stream. Okay, so I'm just installing that right now. Okay, there we go. And let's see what this looks like. Let's see what the boilerplate. Oh god, that's terrible. Sorry, it's so bright. Here, we're gonna go back over to that for a second. I'm going to switch us over to a dark bootstrap theme and then start throwing together some things. What I'm imagining, I'd really like to get the left hand of this, the left hand side of this down to get a sense of regions, nodes, kind of the gathering and the loot, and then the upgrades. And here, I'll just touch on one more part of this. I actually have a whole bunch of different things. There's some stuff on YouTube for some of the stuff that we've discussed in the past little bit. Is this the one I want to bring up? Why isn't it letting me select that? Okay. Oh, there we go. You guys can't quite see that here. Let me move. So this is basically that the world is going to have some hold on, someone say something. I prefer to see code. Fine meta. We'll share some code. I'll hide all the logo and the art stuff. I'll put the code and the thing next to each other. What I'm trying to do here with the drop tables is that each I'm happy just listening to Tempest's voice while I code. Excellent. Yes. One of the things I want to try to do is that essentially each node has a not entirely unique, but has its own drop table. I'll say that. Now, if you look at the map for a second, and we were discussing earlier about the kind of the fire, water, earth, air nations, right? I want some drops related to that. You would have like all of the nodes of the Fire Nation would have been a culture that used, fire artifacts, fire magic, etc. So as long as you're in any Fire Nation node, there would be some sort of commonality in the drop that you're getting. The other thing is what I'm trying to demonstrate with these arrows here. The green is the digging downward. So here, let me just do this. Okay. So what I'm trying to show here is that when everyone starts off, you're basically starting off on level 1 of a tier 1 node. Okay? Right here. The green arrow is the amount of stone you'd be getting. The yellow is the knowledge. Red is some crafting drops. And blue is your shards, which is like, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Those are your boosts. I want to have a currency, basically mana, that is only ever used when you're playing with other people. So there's never a decision, do I spend this currency on myself? Do I spend it on having a good time with other players? The currency of mana can only be spent on basically doing node, region, or global boosts. So I really think that'll increase the amount of socialization and multiplayer when you don't have to make a decision of, do I help myself or other people? It's like you have this pile of treasure. Imagine if I gave you a gift card to go out to a restaurant and I said, hey, You can only use this gift card when you're with friends, as opposed to just by yourself, right? So that's what unfortunately, I'm trying to force people into that. I like ideas, thinking about them, so him ranting is great. Fantastic. And so after you clear the level 1, and story wise, what I'm thinking is that you have, just like with Pompeii, you've cleared enough rock, dirt, rubble out of the way. And part of me goes back to that Diablo 1. If you've played Diablo 1, and there's some other games like it, but in Diablo 1, you're just digging around, or you explore around till you find the staircase down to the next level. So that's essentially what you're doing. You have to clear away enough rubble, and then you realize, oh, there's a city beneath the city, right? And that's where we go down. And here, you'd be getting slightly different drops, more experience, more knowledge, etc. Right? You're leveling up there, right? Now these are pretty significant steps down. I was talking with Rinzai yesterday. We're thinking something like, for a beginner, especially because I don't know how much people are actually going to try to play this game, but I imagine it would only take maybe like 10 minutes to clear the level 1 of a tier 1 node, right? I want people to see the digging and the mechanic that, oh shit, we found something below what we just discovered, right? So maybe then this one takes 1 hour, and maybe this takes 1 day or something like that. But we can really just keep digging down and down and down, and you're just seeing we're just increasing the things. Now the thing that I'm trying to break away from what I see in games like Queslar, Elithor, you see, like, Elithor is close because Elithor has the different nodes that you mine. But if you see here, this yellow is knowledge. What the knowledge is I'm imagining some stuff that's like, say for example, that you're unearthing a city that has learned the spell Fireball. All the knowledge drops of that specific node are basically Fireball experience. And you can keep learning more and more and more and more about Fireball. But if you want to learn any other skill, any other spell, you have to switch to another node. You have to explore a different part of the map, and the same mechanic again. So if you look at the map, you get to make the decision, and this is where kind of like the role play game part of this comes in, right? The decisions you make, not everyone's going to have the same build. You have to decide, am I going to try to get 6 different level 1 spells, or do I get a couple level 3 spells, or do I just go I'm just going to be the guy with the most powerful fireball, right? And this is where also I thought the volcano reset was also a good idea, that after spending a week or whatever in the Fire Nation and everything now resets, well, okay, now I'll go over and do the Water Nation, right? But anyway, the same thing is going to be true with the red here, the crafting drops, where each node and region would have some specific drops in there where you as a player get to decide, how long am I going to grind on this particular loop? How many drops or experience or crafting components do I want for that next upgrade? Do I want to go for the next upgrade for my sword, or do I want to move to a different node that's going to start giving me shield upgrades? Right? And so you have to make those decisions. This could honestly be far more complicated than I'm thinking. This is also why I was budgeting here. This is going to be my main focus for the first 2 weeks. I'm going to make progress on each one of these sections, but for the first 2 weeks, it's the gathering, it's the upgrades, it's the loot table. I really like the way IdleQuest IQ does it, that all the wood cutting drops are for alchemy, all the quarrying drops are for rune crafting, all the mining drops are for jewel crafting. I really like that. It's very clear, very intuitive. If you want to get into one of these crafts, it helps to pair with one of these gathering activities. So here, I wants something sort of similar, depending on where you are on the map, that is the knowledge and the levels of the skill tree that you are leveling up. And it's up to you whether you try to be a jack of all trades or start to specialize. And I'm not going to talk about the combat now. We'll talk about combat excuse me, at another time. But as you start seeing the bonuses, as we start to get into how you're making your character, what your kind of equipments and skills look like, and then how that plays in the multiplayer, where there are parties made up of you and your friends, and how how you may it's similar to a party system. I'm thinking the way like Queslar is, where you have like 4 people together, but you get to play your actions when you want to. Trying to think something like that, but a little bit more passive, where someone can be part of your party, but that doesn't mean necessarily you're part of their party, right? If that makes sense. I get to say, this is my character, these are my 3 party members all together. I'm going to go and run this combat or this dungeon or something like that. I'd like to see a game that has a UI exactly like what this drawing app looks like. Right? A game that's just all of my notes, just all of this. That actually here's the combat loadout. That'd be funny. I thought for a second, here's picking the different party members, assigning different skills. This is all the stuff I did with Rinza yesterday. Here's the original stuff we were talking about a few days ago. That would be funny and unique. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. You could do it. Here's me trying to plan. Here's the 4, right? A week of planning. We're right here at the July 14th, and then the 4 sprints there, front and back and infrastructure. I did think about making a game in which I would just let my kids do all the art. So crayons and color pencils, maybe some stickers, but they'll just make all the art, and then I would just put it into a web app and make it clickable. Just take screenshots, just draw them, save as an SVGs. God, that's not a terrible idea. That would be funny to submit that as, like, here's Pyroclasm, here's Pyroclasm Junior. Just using all these little pictures. Okay, I'm going to just set it back to that, and we're going to switch over. Get some code, get some game running now. Okay, let me open up Visual Code. Alright. Go over to our boilerplate. Get this up, going up for you guys. Let's see, slide boost, Pyroclasm. There we go. Let me know if the typing is too loud. I know that this mic can pick up the keyboard. I'm gonna close. What is this? I'm gonna close this. I can try to position the mic or turn it down. What I want to do? I want to look at. Okay, we're gonna share that in just a sec. It's not an issue. It sounds like some light rain. Okay, cool, that works. Alright, I'm going to move this here. I'm going to try to get my VS Code next to... God, that's bright. I need to change the theme. I'm going to change the theme of Bootstrap before I share it with you guys. Source app. Okay, we are not Lumen. I'm going to use Cyborg. Cyborg's nice and dark. Cyborg's the one I've used for other games. There we go. And now let me position a couple things. We're gonna, I already have, Yeah. Let me position a couple things. I already actually have a split screen version made up in OBS. And then where's my window capture for my code? Excuse me. Nope, that's showing that twice. Hold on. Where's the code? Google Chrome, show me VS Code. Okay. I think Rinzai is going to be Rinzai is going to be joining us later. It's fun. I get to delegate some of the things. ASMR coding is great. Oh my gosh. I get to delegate some of the things over to her, which is real fun. Where the hell? Main.js Pyroclasm. This is taking a little bit longer. Sorry, guys. I'm looking for... I think I'll have to quit this and reopen it. Trying to get the code to show up on the screen. Oh, code, visual code. There it is. And then this is... There we go. Let's get this a little bit laid out better. Hold on. Almost there. Put the code. And then the only thing I'm going to do is pop open, but I won't share this on screen. I'm going to pop open the debug console, just in case I run into any issues, but I will have that thing not take up real estate. There we go. On the stream. All right, let's get rid of that. Closer. Let's put the code there and the game there. I think that'll do. Let me see if I can increase the size of the code. All right, we'll give this a go. Give this a go. All right. So my boilerplate is Vue 3, Bootstrap 5. I may actually want to increase. Okay, Bootstrap 1.3, good. It's got the latest. Okay. Good. So this is what I'm starting with. It does have the Bootstrap icons. It has Boot Swatch, which is for theming, which is great. We're gonna want to go. I do have some basic components in here. I think I have a header, footer. Oh, and I have a little tick counter. We unfortunately probably won't be, or maybe we'll use that. This is just like idle quest. It's just the bar that ticks every 6 seconds. What else do I have? Some styles, helpers, no store, no, and just a main view. Okay, so yeah, this is bare bones. Let's go ahead and start grabbing some Bootstrap stuff. So the header, excuse me, we're going to want a nav bar. Yeah, okay. So we're going to want a nav bar. We've got a container. I'm going to push this to container fluid to take the full width. Margin top, let's get rid of that. The footer, the header. Now I'm going to go over to Bootstrap and grab a sample header. Actually, I think I may have a pretty simple, let me see if I have a pretty simple header I can just use. the thing I got to keep in mind, and the tricky part, is that with a single player game, you can put all of the transactional logic right in the project. And if someone does any sort of memory hacking, gives himself 1,000,000 gold or whatever, so be it, whatever. It's a single player game. With a multiplayer game, all of that has to happen on the server. And so our view app is basically going to be the equivalent of a television set. It just receives. You can do very little in the, basically every click in the game is a request to the server, and that's where everything is going to happen. So we got our boilerplate. We got border bottom and an H1. Oops, let's set up our project here. Let's go into our env file, title, Pyroclasm. Oh, and the deploy path, great. Let's set this up so that we can actually deploy this to a GitHub page relatively easily. Put the slash there as well. Yeah, great. I'm going to restart the yarn serve so it reflects the change in the name, and I'm going to get a, let's see, footer, header. Let's just save another one of these. File, save as, get a nav bar in place. Okay. So, I'm gonna put this in place. Bootstrap nav bar. The nav bar. We don't need any title yet or anything like that. We can get the most we'll want to do with our front end is some nice responsive stuff, like if I don't have enough currency to buy something, the button should be disabled or maybe a different color, right? That's the sort of thing you should do. But the actual logic of saying, hey, you've done this upgrade and now you have this stat, that is not a front end piece of logic. I see /nav. Great. Nav, and then within there, we want to set up. Okay, this button is for collapsing it. So that's our mobile menu there, everyone. This is just straight from the Bootstrap site. Excuse me. Put that after the button. Oops. I just copy and pasted the same thing twice. Sorry about that. And then what, we have to close both divs. And then what we're going to do is we're going to throw in some router links. Router link is a component in Vue that uses the router. Changes the URL, helps organize these things. Essentially, right, this is just a single page web application. The whole application is just one we're just on the index.html, the site, we never leave it. We're going to want, unlike other games, especially back in the day when you'd have an actual different page. For different sections of your game. I'm just going to show a main in here for a second. Okay, I just want to get that appearing. I'm going to go to app. I want to uncomment this. This is now an actual component. The navbar, and the one thing the one thing I'll also try to do, I don't like cluttered interfaces like Queslar and even IQ. They just have too much on the screen with the left and right bars. Those folks apparently like that stuff. That's why all these games that I see, they like seeing all the numbers, all the stats, all the whatever. I don't. So I'm gonna try to keep that to a minimum, and really try to focus your attention on whatever you're setting your active view to be. Hey, I want to look at the map. Hey, I want to focus on crafting, etc. And we're gonna try to put that in front of you. Okay, so if everything, let's see. Excuse me. The nav bar at the nav bar layout. The nav bar. Why isn't that showing up? Oh, did I make a responsive only version of it? Let's see. I'm not seeing anything. Hold on. Let me refresh. Okay, there we go. I must not have refreshed in a while. There we go. So, let's do a couple things. It's got some padding there. Border bottom. Container fluid, the header. Yeah, I think let's get rid of the margin bottom 5. We got the border bottom. I bet that could be an even smaller. And we could probably do something like, well, like, let's just see padding 3. No. Padding top 1, padding start 1. Let's see. Okay. What I also like to do sometimes is a nice little trick here. I'm gonna put some style in here. I'm gonna go ahead and color all divs. Give them all a border color. Border 1 pixel solid red. And this is kind of interesting. It helps see the structure of the page. Try to figure out where any sort of extra padding or margin is. I'm not liking what's happening. I don't like what's happening there with my header, but the issue this is weird. Let me see. It's always fun to run into these fucking bugs on stream when you have people listening to you or whatever, and you're like, I can't figure out how to move 5 pixels. That's always a good time. There we go. Some rows and columns. So then we get the nav bar. That's got another container fluid in there. I don't know that that's necessary. We've already got. Let's see what that does. Does that make us go full width? I'm not in love with this. Yikes. Okay, no, let's not get hung up on it. I'll visit it later. But let's do a couple things. What I want to do here, let's go to the nav bar for a second. I would like these not to look like nav links. Oh, let's see. I'm gonna get rid of nav. Let's see, BG light. I'll throw these in a comment for a second. Kind of like the idea of having them look like buttons. Okay. And let's get another route in here. So we have our main page. We have, let's just throw it in. We'll have our map page. From our map page, we're going to get down to our, I'm just going to call it the node page for now. That's your dig site where the gathering happens. My double click is not working so great. There you go. So I've got 3 views now in the game. one for the map, one for the node, and one, yeah, there you go. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, and I want to do something different with my router. Just a second. I want to do, hold on. Commonly in applications nowadays, you'll see when you navigate around, they throw a hashtag in there. Create web, there it is, hash history. And then I have to import that one. There we go. Great, that should hopefully play a little nicer on GitHub. Now I need to update my views, rename to main view. And then let's just go ahead and save this a couple more times. Map view and save as. Node view. Okay, let's go to our nav bar and just throw that stuff in there. Here is our map. And now I'll do this just right now so we can just demo it, but technically you would never get to the node view through the navigation. You'd be map and then node, but that's fine. There we go. So I can now, and let me just update the map. Oh, the one thing I also need to do, here, let me go into my public folder. Yeah, this is a very thin font, isn't it? What am I loading? Am I not loading any Google fonts? Source Sans Pro. Oh yeah, I don't want. Let's see if this looks better. Let me load Source Sans Pro. Excuse me. Let me pull that in from Google here. Let's see what that looks like. All right. I don't know. Let's look at the nav bar. Okay, so we have maps here, and I will do this for right now. Get rid of the red boxes so we can see the actual game. Okay, so if I go to map view, just type in map, I go to node view, node, right, map, okay, good, cool, we have 3, cool. Now let's go to our map view for a second. I'm just going to throw in some, what I want to do is I'm going to simulate the map without the actual map. I'm going to just get router links in place. What am I doing? There we go, router link. This is going to be to node, but I want parameters. So Vue has this really cool thing. I'm going to reuse the node view for every node in the game. So I'm going to make one template that's going to take a variable telling it which node you're actually at. So say for example we have 30 nodes, right? 30 different dig sites. I can use one template for all 30. And so I'm going to put together a router link here that is going to say my map view is basically going to be a list of the nodes. So this is going to be node 1, right? Node 2, node 3, node 4. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, cool. And you're like, hey, how do you actually pull that off? So I'm going to look at another project just for a second as reference. On passing a parameter, I think it's like this. This is my, okay, hold on. This is my map view. I'm going to go over to my node view, and I'm going to set a property. Props. With Vue, what I'm using is the options API, which is really what came out in like Vue 2.0. View 2. In View 3, they came out with the Compositions API. I've not adopted that. I prefer the Options API. Composition API is closer to functional programming, is the preference of some. Structurally, Options API makes a lot of sense to me. It's basically just one big flat template for the component. What I do is I follow a pattern here called the single file component. Every component in the project is going to have a template up at the top, and then it's going to have the data that the template needs, all the computed values, and the methods that the component that template needs. And then what I do is I build a game, putting all these different components on the screen and then tying them together. So props are basically data that is passed into a component. And in this case, we'd be passing the node ID. And that's going to be, I guess it'll be a number. Excuse me. Let's do this. Let's do an alert, and let's also give it a default just for right now. Let's do type number. Let's give a default of 0. So for some reason, if you happen to come here, alert secondary, and then a nice big H1, and then we're going to print out the node ID. Little debugging there, div. So if I was to flip over to my node screen for a second, boom, nice big gray box. Now what I want is I want that 0 to be any other number. And so how does that happen? The node view is saying, hey, at some point you're going to pass in node ID. Now this is a view, and the thing that determines when this view is live is the router. And so what I'm going to say, hey, for the node view, props is true, and the node : node ID. So now when I visit /node, if I put in an ID, you'll go to that node. Let me just take a check at something. Boom, 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 boom. There's something. There we go. I'm just going to take a look at a previous game I was working on, again with raccoons, because those are always the best games, where I had this logic already set up. Yeah, location, props true. Okay, and then I just need to see how I created the router link. So let me just see the component. Trying to figure out where I put the params. Let's see. I just have to Google this. Hold on. View router link with params. There it is. I like View. The API is really easy to understand. Yeah, there it is. It's pretty easy. Here we go. So we're going to go to our map view. We did our 2, and now we're just going to write, okay, the name is node and params is an object where node ID is 1. And copy this over and over and over with a comma. Save. Node 2. Node 3 and node 4. So now I'm going to go ahead and refresh. This is not working because missing required parameter. Okay, so let me go to my node view. It is a number. Its default is 0. Hold on. Take the, why is it? Missing required parameter node ID. Just a second. Where is it missing it? Router link. Oh, I'm missing it in my nav bar. That's why. I'm going to take it out of my nav. Node is no longer part of the nav bar. Let's hit save and see if that fixes the issue. There it is. So now I want to go to map, and now I go to map. Node 1. Great. Go back to map. Node 2. Go back to map. Node 3. Go back to map. Node 4. Great. So I'm using one template. I can now visit 4 different nodes. And so once that ID gets in there, I'll do some sort of lookup as to the name of the node, the drop table, etc. What your progress is for that particular node. So we have a node template set up. Great. Let's take a moment here and push everything back up to GitHub, because that sounds like a good time. We would hate to lose our work here. Git add view. Okay. Great. Okay. So that is a all right. What else do we need to know about? In our header. Great. You know what we'll do? There's a couple of, let's see. We know we have div. We know we have stone. That's going to be our currency primarily. We'll probably also, just for right now, probably put mana. That may also be a currency that you'll want to know. You'll want to keep in mind. Let's see just for a second. What happens when I get rid of this stuff? Okay. What I want is I want a div class. I want a row, a deflex, justify content between. Let's see what this does. Border bottom. Let's move the border bottom to the row. Okay. What I want, and what I want is I want these justify content deflex. Justify content. What I want is the Pyroclasm, the stone, and the stone amount to be next to each other. Let's see. I'll look up Bootstrap for a second. There you go. So what I have is this. We'll just put a little div around those. That's going to push all of them over there. I don't want that. Hold on. I'll just do justify content start, and then a margin end of 5. Good. There's Pyroclasm up there. Margin end of 5 on that. Okay. So now we have stone and mana. We'll keep track of that up there. And we'll bring it in to do connect to store for stone and mana. Okay. Maybe on the right there we'll say what node you're currently at. One for digging, one for battling. Those could be 2 different nodes. We may come back to that and do that. Let's go ahead and continue on with this. Let's see. I see margin and 5 minutes. And then yeah, we can do button groups as well. We have the main, the map. We have to have some place to do your upgrades. Now your upgrades are done in a couple of different ways. For now, we'll just call it skills. excuse me, and the other one crafting, and let's see. So let's create one. So that's skills, that's crafting. We need to go to our router and create a skills view and a route view. Sorry, a skills and a craft view. We don't have a variable, at least at the moment, for the skills. And the crafting. So what I'm hoping to do is try to get down a little bit of all the areas of the game that I know for certain I want, and try not to dig too deep into any particular area that if I wanted to shift gears sometime in the next couple weeks, it would be too difficult to do. So let's just grab the main view again and duplicate that a couple more times. Skills, and we'll do a save as skills and crafting. And to be honest, I'm probably not even going to think about how the crafting view is going to even lay out for a couple of days. I just know that at some point we do want crafting in here. At some point we do want a skill tree. Not going to worry about how that looks for a while. But let's go to our nav bar here and type in, here we go, crafting and skills. And we'll give that a test. Oh, on the skills view, let's put the word skills, and on the crafting view, crafting. Skills, view, map, main. Okay. Node. And the node view, it'd be nice to have just a button, oops, to go back to the map. So I don't have to keep clicking up in the nav. To map, and get rid of the parameter. Back to map. Okay, there you go. All right. We'll go ahead and push our progress again to get adding crafting and skill views. Okay. Some of the things we'd want to show on the node view or the main view. Trying to think of all the things you can upgrade, all the things that'll end up being part of your character. Be fun to grab the I'll just grab that quick little map, the map I made, and just bring it into the project for a second. There we go. Let's put that right there in the assets folder. Cool. There it is in the assets. If I go to map view, let's see, map view, and just for fun, we'll put this below the button so it doesn't get in the way, but I think it's just, what is the source? Assets, pyro.jpg. Something like that. Hold on. There it is, boom. Let's throw a couple classes on it. I think it's like image-fluid to make it resize. There it is. So this should now resize as we resize the page. So we have a responsive map. That looks pretty cool. All of a sudden, we're way ahead of everyone else. We have this amazing graphic. That's just fantastic. Margin top 5. it gets away from those buttons. That looks super cool. There we go. I want to get that nav bar for a second, and I want to say BG. Like, yeah, right. Submit now. I'm done. This is it. It's not going to get any better. We know it. I know it. You know it. I do not like. I'm gonna need to pop open one of the other games and look at what I was doing for that nav bar, because this one I'm hating, or at least the colors or something. Maybe it's because you know what? It's because I'm making him blue. I realize that now. That makes it disappear. Hold on. Ugh. Do I make this dark? Ugh. Let me see. Light. Yikes. I want to open up one of the other games. This is going to bug the shit out of me, which is unfortunate because I don't need a distraction right now just based off color. This is exactly what you don't want on a hackathon. Something that's going to slow you down, that's pretty inconsequential. That's even worse. Ugh. Whatever. Pyroclasm map view. Okay, great. Let's go back out here for a second. There is a container fluid around the whole thing. Let's actually see what happens when I get rid of that global container fluid. Does the game actually fuck? That looks better. There we go. We don't need a div around the whole game. And for right now, that footer, we'll keep the footer. The footer's nice. Okay. Well, yeah, I think we're done, guys. I don't think it's fair to ask for much more to be done in this game. Look at that image. It's amazing. No. Okay. So, let's see. Boom. Let's go ahead and close some of these extra things for right now, and let's figure out what we want to do. Ooh, let's actually try that for a sec. I'm just going to test this out. Our build, deploying to a GitHub page. One of the things I like about hackathons is they, especially like a Ludum Dare, you really try to get everything, design, development, and shipping the project. Everything involved in shipping your code, and I really like. Many developers spend a lot of time in the beginning part, design, and then like development hell, and where like the scope just will stretch on and on and on and on and on. And you rarely get the experience of shipping, of deploying your project. So I'm going to actually deploy this project pretty frequently, so I can make sure it runs in production. The last thing you want to do is spend all this time developing locally on your machine, and then realize when it comes time to submit your game, or you come do, maybe it's like a class project or it's a work project, and you go to deploy it, and on the day of the presentation is the first time you ever put it into production. Absolutely terrible and avoidable by just making it part of your routine to publish often. Pyroclasm. So hey everyone, you can now play. If I do view actual size, here we go. You can visit Slyboots Studio, slyboots.studio/Pyroclasm. That is what you are viewing right now. This is the website live. You can see the different things. This is a GitHub hosted page. There's no backend yet, obviously, but we do have map. No, excuse me. We have this working, so that's cool. My boilerplate comes with a nice little yarn build, yarn deploy. The yarn deploy command just triggers a GitHub publishing library. So just easily turns this into a GitHub page and publishes on GitHub. So hosting is free. So we're going to go ahead and just use this to be a good time and just mark our progress with GitHub and be like, I guess the only thing I did was I added the map to the game. Yeah, there you go. And I published. What was the address? It is, oh shit. I don't have, hold on. I'm going to bring this. Is this big map in the way? Here, hold on. Let me go back here and grab this. Copy and come up here. Hold on. Okay. Hold on, I've got too many webcams now. Turn off the webcam. Cool, do you see that? So it's slyboots.studio, right above my name. slyboots.studio/Pyroclasm, which I will try to update this link to actually have the link of the game. Here, hold on. Website, here we go. Slyboots Studio /Pyroclasm. There we go. Okay. And if I just make that all shoot, I'm trying to make it all visible. Like that. Work on the, there we go. Like that. And then we transition so it looks nice. Does that work for you guys? Okay, there you go. Pyroclasm. Cool, so that's where we'll be able to keep track of the game. I do want to put some sort of, I realize some other things in the game that we're going to need here, and I'll just put in a bit of a readme or something like that of the to-dos. Actually, yeah, I'll create a to-do. A little to-do.md. And we also, I guess I could do this on my GitHub page to just, if I say we're gonna do project management, we can actually do this. So not there. I actually created a publicly available project, PBBG Game Jam, and I'm gonna say what we need is some sort of add a developer log or a roadmap or a what do you call that, like release notes. Cool. Let's go ahead and add that to the project. Sweet. And then can I do little labels? Oh, we'll do that later. Cool. So okay, so yeah, there's a live view. I'll let you guys know when I publish. In the footer, I will actually also upgrade that, so the footer will show a version number, so that it'll be a little easier to tell what version you're looking at. Version 1, 1.1, 1.1, you know, whatever. Okay, so localhost, we have our nodes, skills, crafting, map, main. Stone. Let's go ahead and start working in our store for a second. Oh, okay. The store is basically our big state object, big global JavaScript variable that is going to feed all the components with all the stuff about your character. Document.title view bootstrap boilerplate. I know. Where is it? Right here. It's because I haven't updated the package. That's why. If I call this Pyroclasm, and if we just take this from 0 to version 1, and now if we do a nice little yarn build and yarn deploy, it should go ahead and rename the game. And here, I'll stop and restart the yarn view. The yarn serve. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. I'm just gonna open up a couple other things. Okay, that should be good. If I refresh now, yeah, I see Pyroclasm up at the top. If I visit my Sly Boot Studio, oh, what did I do here? This is another. Is this an older game? The Wildcraft Online. Oh, this is a creation. Hold on. This is a test. Oh, is this the? This is the Sockets game. Look at that. Look at that raccoon. Yeah, this is the Socket game. Okay. Yeah, we're not gonna do that one right now. That one's not running. Oh shit. It is. I wonder. Okay, never mind. I think that Socket server is still running. Cool. There it is. So now if we refresh, there. Now the title of the page. Now the title of the page reflects the title of our game, which is great. Okay. What I want to do now, yeah, right. This thankfully will not keep anyone up. Store. Okay, so what I want to do here is we're going to create a couple different modules for our store. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. What do we want to do here? We have, I guess, the gathering. We'll see. We'll see how we do this. Typically, I could see something like an inventory. I could see something like equipment. Something around with battling. For right now, let's just put in some currencies. Stone, I'm gonna give, here, I'm gonna give like enough there. Stone, we have getters, mutations, actions. What did we do? Stones and mana? Fine. Make these big enough so as I format them, we can see it work with commas. Let's see, stone, state, return, state.stone. So if I was to go to my header for a second and actually do import vuex, or what I want to do, I want to import, what is it, map getters from vuex, and then tie that into my computeds. Hold on, make sure this is, yeah, still showing. Okay, oh, okay, map getters, and then let me just see. I think I may go a little bit too fast and then confuse myself. Let's look at import map getters, lowercase m, there we go. There, up in the header. Oh, you guys can't see it. Hold on, let me scoot that down. There you go. Up in the header there, you can now see the stone is, and there's a way, I would like, the stone now says, whatever, the 600,000. I would like to, what is it, is that the thing that adds the commas? Yeah, there you go. So now it says 60 million with the commas in place. I really like this function to locale string. So if you're in Europe and you use periods instead of commas, you should see the periods in place, not the commas. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm gonna just see some, yeah. And so that's stone, and then I want to put let's see, mana. I want my double click to be a little bit better. Header. We're gonna bring both stone and mana into our headers. Boom, stone and mana. Fantastic. One of the cool things we'll do here, how does it handle date format? That is a wonderful question. I really like using moment.js for dates. I don't think I've done a locale. I'll be honest, I don't think I've done a to-locale string with dates, because usually the date object itself, you can specify the format with it. So I haven't relied on to-locale string for date formatting, but that's a good question. Stone, yeah, it's today, yeah. And depending on, yeah, if you're in Europe and stuff like that, you start with like day, month, year. But if you're in the US, you usually do the month, day, year, right? I bet, yeah, it'd be interesting. Let's see. So what I want to do is I want to skills. Oh, we're gonna need another page for your upgrades. So skills. If we go back, if we think skills is basically your knowledge. Here, let me do this. Div class alert. Let's see. Secondary. Let's just see this. Spend. It's not actually going to be spending knowledge points. You're basically collecting fragments of knowledge. Here, let me go over the skills for a second. There you go. So actually I have to say collect fragments of knowledge. And I like the idea of like fragments of knowledge. They could be relics, ruins, artifacts, manuscripts, all this different, whatever you're pulling out of the ground could hypothetically help you further your knowledge of a skill or something like that. So to progress your skills. So I think there's going to be both a kind of a quantity of the drops, and then basically you have someone who is your character who translates, who tries to decipher and understand, almost like an archaeologist, right? So let's do this. Archaeologist. Let's get the spelling for that one. And we'll do this. Card. Div class card. And we'll do the div class card header. And we'll just put this in there for now. And then we'll do div class card body. Because I do think maybe down the line here you could do some upgrades on having your archaeologist speed up his process or be a better archaeologist. How do you upgrade your archaeologist? Same thing with crafting, and we'll go ahead and dump some information over here. Here you're going to have a what's the word? Like an artificer, someone who's going to make artifacts. Collect craftable material to upgrade your equipment. I don't yet know. I really like how Idle Quest, basically you are always wearing the same boots, same armor, same sword, and you're just upgrading it. I don't necessarily like what they do in Queslar, where you outgrow your weapon and now you have to get rid of it and have to craft a new one. I would prefer if it just stayed with you and you upgraded. What I do like, and this kind of gets into, maybe this is too complicated for this jam, but I do like the idea of some variety. So again, what I don't like about IQ is that everyone's essentially doing roughly the same thing. But I could imagine, for example, you have a couple of different swords, right? Like you're crafting like the fire sword and the ice sword. So, or maybe a base sword, and then you have different gems or something that you socket into it, and you upgrade those. The idea is that when you go into different combat scenarios, you would get to choose which weapon you are using. I really like the approach of like Pokemon with a dozen different types of Pokemon, and it's not just one. We all just don't have the same one fighting each other. You can pick and change based off types. So I do want weapons that you will upgrade with you. You won't want to use your fire sword the entire game. There literally will be mobs heavily resistant to fire, so you have to switch over and use a different one. But I don't want you to feel like you have like a level 1 fire sword and then you kind of outgrow it and have to trash it and craft like some tier 2 fire sword. No, we'll just upgrade the base one, right? I feel like that sort of progression rather than telling folks that they have to start over, essentially. Let me just check a couple things. Okay. We are going to progress a little bit farther into this. I've got the crafting. Oh, and then skills. That's not skills. Unfortunately, the pages I've created so far don't match the currencies I've created. There's nowhere to spend stone. There's nowhere to spend mana. So let's do something about that. If we build, so the node, right, your location, and maybe we'll call them locations later on. Right now they're nodes in my mind. I can see both investing into fortifying your dig location, both for your digging efforts and potentially your battle efforts, right? Like you'll be able to progress farther if you reinforce it, and that would take stone to do that. Also, if we get to the point where the volcano erupts, it's those stone or whatever fortifications to help prevent you from resetting too much. For battling, if we have nodes that are attacked by mobs, you'll want some sort of upgrade there to help you and things like that. So the node is a place that we could spend some stone. The other thing is that like this game doesn't necessarily have gold in it, and I didn't really want to put in that, though I may for when we do like a player marketplace. The tricky thing is there's not an action right now that generates gold, so I wanted to fit the theme, but because it doesn't really make sense to spend stone to do all these other sort of like upgrades. So yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that. Okay. This is what node? I'm on the node view. But here, let's go into our store for a second. Let's think about let me take a look at what we said here and transition over here for a second. Make it relics. Relics from mining, fighting. All the creatures have relics from old times. Your old lands you scavenge as relics from other countries. It could be tiers of relics based on rarity. Relics being a currency, like gold, or that you would upgrade with. I did think that there would be some common drops between mining and fighting to help further your crafting. All the creatures have relics from old times. I mean, that does make sense, especially if you are scavenging or digging up like an old civilization, is you're going to find the currency and the treasure there. So that does make sense. All the creatures have relic. Your old time is scavenge and relic. And of course, the monsters coming out of the hills would have like sort of. I mean, it's still treasure, but it'd be like more of a raw. Like they haven't minted coins, but they do have some amount of treasure, whatever. So yeah, gold, silver, whatever. So you can definitely communicate it all as simply relics, right? This is just X amount of relic value. Break them down, use them, use the elements. Yep, exactly. They can be tiers of relics based off rarity. Yeah, sure. So. Now let's put that in. Stone man relic. And then let's give ourselves a bunch of that. And let's go to the header for a second. And let's go ahead and drop in relic. And let's go to our store once more. A nice little formatter here. Picture path exile sadly exploding on the ground around dead creatures. So I do want. So I'll have to take a look at what that looks like. I do imagine, like when you are gathering, you're getting stone. You're getting I'm not showing the thing anymore. Sorry. Actually, let's just draw this for a second. So mining and battling. Well, battling would be a bit different, but when you're gathering, you're getting stone. You're getting some knowledge, and some of this stuff will be like, say for example, a map fragment. You need map fragments to figure out where other nodes are. Some of this stuff would be skill progression, skill fragment. Occasionally you'll get a spell fragment. You could even do almost like a recipe, like for a crafting recipe. Though I think at this point that would probably be like a post jam thing. So you're digging up that stuff. You're getting I don't know, shards. This is like mana. And the way I think about this is, if you're familiar with the Way of Kings book from Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson. It's similar. Imagine you had a crystal that works like a battery. You expend the magic from the crystal. It's now an empty crystal, but it can be recharged and used again. So I kind of like this idea that you are pulling these crystals out of the ground, and what they represent aren't a one-time use of mana, but a growing capacity of max mana that you could use. That you can use it, but then it would recharge, and so you want to get more and more of it. Shards, knowledge, and then of course the crafting components. And this would be crafting components for both your tool upgrades. Is this still on the screen? Great. And then everything that you need for combat. So what we're talking about here now is a relic or some sort of treasure. And that does make sense. Basically materia from materia from Final Fantasy. Max Rusty, hold on, let me see what you've where you can hold on. Let me see. What does this link do? That would be fun to visualize on the screen. Have it all just sort of like pop out there and see the rarities and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be fun. Where you can gather and combine material to make different types of them, specialized and sometimes random. What is that in the reference of? Sorry, Alk. What's your basic material from Final Fantasy where you can gather and combine material to make different types of them, specialized and sometimes random? You mean like the gear, or what if this list right here would be like materia? I guess that's the question I have. Or is that like a relic? You mean? Because I think we did play Rinzai. So basically, materia is a gem in Final Fantasy, right? Yes. Rinzai and I were thinking, yeah. I mean, there's other things you can craft like trinkets and charms and stuff like that could work both for gathering and crafting. And I think the only difference here, or at least the one big difference that stands out to me, is on expending the gem means being able to cast said material. Yes. Okay. So to dip into the magic system that I was thinking, let me know what you think of this. This is the magic system. Magic is essentially like boosts, and these could be for a node. These could be for a region, which is a group of nodes, and the game probably has like 3 or 4 regions, and then global. They stack probably in duration, but also in strength. So this is I'll dip into what we were thinking for the multiplayer, since get your thoughts on it. Say I'm fighting. This is our node, right? And I'm here, and I'm fighting against the mobs, and you're also here, and you're fighting against the mobs, right? And I'm gonna cast like a buff, like a plus HP, or maybe it's a negative HP on the mobs, some sort of node, and that's gonna affect both of us. It's gonna affect all the players that are at that node, right? So you could cast the same spell, and if so, our spells stack, and now we're getting, like, instead of just a 10% boost to our health, now we're both getting like a 13% boost, right? And maybe it lasts a little longer. And then a third player comes along, and now we're up to like a 15% boost, right? These boosts could be like plus fire damage, and stuff like that. So like we could say, hey, I've got the plus 5 fire damage, and then you cast it as well. So now we both get a plus 7. Someone else comes, and now we both get a plus 9. This is very similar to what Carl in IQ recently implemented in terms of the credit. I don't even know what you want to call it, like the hype train or something like that. The more you spend while the boost is going on, the longer and more powerful the boost will become. It's sort of similar to that. The idea is that you and like players around you, there's an incentive to spend your mana. It doesn't the whole magic system helps you and everyone else at that node. Or if you're a high level player, your magic is strong enough that it's going to affect an entire region. It's going to affect all the Fire Nation nodes, right? You've got a whole spell here that is, you know, like a slow effect on all the mobs, or something like that, right, for the whole region. And I think that'd be pretty cool. In the same way, like, people get excited when there are global boosts and stuff like that. Like, here's your incentive. You're gathering mana. There's only one way to spend mana. It's to help out everyone else. We're all gonna freaking do it. It's gonna be great. And then rarely or something like that, we'd have like a global type thing. The fun thing about this is, let me see if I have this drawing I was showing. Okay, here it is. So let me illustrate this again. Let's see. PvE VP, and their damage over time that persists on characters. So as the character moves around to other locations, you're infecting everyone and the entire play. That's funny. What I was thinking is, like, maybe you dump the mana into like some sort of totem or something at that node, right? And so it sort of like charges up something at that node. So the way the PvP works, or sorry, the way the combat works is, if you've played Elithor, the combat goes, you don't just fight like one mob and it's like, did you win or not? You fight through as many mobs as you can, right? And the way we were originally setting this up is almost like imagine if you took Carl's IQ's dungeon system with the rooms in a dungeon, but then also did basically how far in one round could you get in that dungeon before you got defeated. So a new player would maybe get like this far, right? And after a few upgrades, they can get through the first checkpoint, right? Okay? But now let's say they learn a spell, right? And now they get that boost, right? And now we have a couple other players come, and we're all playing at the same time. And now, without me having to upgrade any of my equipment or my stuff, just for the fact that 3, 4, 5 other players also buffing this node, now I'm able to get farther. So there's this like collective, like, if we work together as a team, we can all get farther. And I want this buff to last long enough so that we don't have to feel like I have to be online right when you're online for us to play. Right? Excuse me. An auto-able ladder slasher like home system would be dope. Ladder Slasher, the game that's on the D2 JSP. I'll have to check that one out. It's been a while since I've looked at that one. The other part of this, so this is half of the combat system. The other half is, I guess we'll call this, this is basically the solo combat. And then the other half is kind of the multiplayer combat. I'm not going to necessarily call it bosses, but it's a similar. For right now, I'll just call it raids. Can you see that? Okay, now I'm off the screen there for a sec. Let me just. Well, I think that's fine. This is going to be how we all collaborate against a single. So. In solo combat, we're all running parallel instances, our own unique instance against that mob. We just happen to get extra boosts from each other's presence. With the raid, we are all in one instance. So I do this much damage, and the next person does that much damage, and the next person does that, and we are progressing towards the target, right? We have some amount of time that this raid is open for, and we need to see how far in it we can get. So here the same thing applies. If we drop a whole bunch of boosts, if we cast a whole bunch of spells, debuffs on the mobs, benefits on us, we'll be able to proceed faster and faster in there. Especially that I'm thinking something like the nature of each one of these dots is going to change, right? Like the mobs here may be goblins, right? Some like fire goblins or whatever. But then we go to like, you know, some sort of like stone giants where what your equipment loadout that may have worked in the beginning is going to be not as efficient in the second segment, and maybe it's going to excel great in the third segment, but it means like there's an actual strategy to what everyone's wearing, when do we need certain boosts or whatever. I played a game, this was like 10 years ago, but it was a, you know, like a mobile whatever game, idle game. But I remembered during some of the quests, or the I get raids similar to this. Everyone would occasionally, over the course of say like 40 minutes, do sort of an attack action. But then there were certain points where everyone basically needed to slam a key as much as possible to get through some barrier. I don't necessarily want to do that, but I did like that the what you needed to do to progress from stage to stage did change. So, you know, maybe everyone in, like, if the first part of the raid has a lot of fire mobs, folks with fire vulnerabilities are basically not going to be that effective at all, right? People with fire resist will, and so someone will want to have that sort of build to try to make sure everyone can get through the first phase. And then after that, maybe their build isn't as efficient for, like, you know, like I was saying, like the earth phase or something like that, or the mob type changes, the element type changes, something like that. Maybe we have a build that's really good at like maybe you have to kill like, you know, 1,000 goblins here, but then we only have like 3 big trolls there. So the skill to hit multiple targets was really great in phase 1, terrible in phase 2. But then someone else is bringing in some sort of like critical strike thing that was completely wasted in phase 1 is excelling in phase 2. So this is what we're preliminarily thinking for both how multiplayer would work, but also a general like a high level of how combat works. Okay, I'm gonna keep going a little bit. I think, to be honest, I'm gonna keep working on the game, but I do think I have to stop the stream here in a bit, just because I feel like, unfortunately, starting to lose my voice. Had a long day of meetings, and now the stream's been going on for a couple hours. So, but we'll be back tomorrow because I have the day off from work, and I'd really like to get much further in getting something clickable and working and stuff like that. So here, let's transition back to some code. Okay. So I do like the idea. Yeah, relics. Okay, great. And so then you have something like this, and we would upgrade the archaeologist with the relics, the treasure. Yeah, I guess maybe we do have some amount of gold, maybe just calling it gold, because everyone's going to expect some amount of gold. But I do want stone to also be, because your ability to clear away stone is directly related to how far down you can progress. How quickly, right? The more stone you clear will also influence the amount of drops you can sort of find, because you're again clearing away these buildings, these streets, these things, etc. Okay. Let's see. I also want, collecting map. Sorry, now I got a little bit distracted there. You know what might be a fun thing to try to do is let me try to think if I want to do this right now. Yeah, I do. Where did I host that? I'm going to tie in a Google Sheet into this so I can start coming up with, so I can have a nice document that I can share with other folks who want to help collaborate on, say, like the name of the items, the name of the skills, stuff like that. Essentially, it'll serve as a content database for right now. And I'm going to just try to find. I had a template of this that I want to use. Excuse me. Games. Yeah, there it is. I used a copy of this with Noroth of all places. Oops. And then, hold on just a sec. Let's see this. Looking up some old projects that I can reference to try to easily pull in a Google content. Thing you gotta make sure when you do something like this is that the Google Sheet should be read-only publicly, and only a few people have edit permissions. Otherwise, you're letting just the general public edit your code, and that is not acceptable. But yeah, this is a great way to do this. So let's see. I'm gonna bring in. Let's go to the what view do we? Let's just do the skills view, the node view, the map view. Let's do the skills view for a second, and let's just drop it right down here in the created lifecycle hook. Okay. And what I want to do here is connect it to a Google Sheet. So let's go ahead and I'm going to need to create, here, let me create this in my Slyboots account, since I'm going to share this with people. Pyroclasm. And the nice thing here, right, if I can have people help create the content, that's a lot less for me to have to do. In just a second. I'm gonna get this working. And then I think I'm gonna stop the stream. So that'll be a good, and then when I pick it up tomorrow, it'll be a little bit further than where I turned off tonight. So Pyroclasm, let's do like a skill. Here, I'll share this so you guys can see this, the way I rigged this up. So these are just Pyroclasm skills, and we'll do like a name. We'll just do a type. We'll just try that for right now. Let's see what we want to do. We'll just start with skill of firebolt, type fire, fireball, type fire, winter wind, cold type, teleport, transportation. Just gonna throw in some content there. What I want to be able to do right now is read this content out and I just want to read this content out and display it in the game. So that's the content. Let me see if I do this. Hold on, where did I put the idea? Right after the D. There it goes. Save. And then what I want to do is type. Ooh, let's do label and type. Do that. Right? Yeah. And let me scroll down so you guys can see what I'm editing here. So what I'm doing is I'm connecting to a Google spreadsheet and I'm requesting the content of that file, and I want it to give it to me in a JSON format. Let's just get rid of that. And that's the headers. I don't need the headers. I just want the content of the rows. This is going to be the title, and this is going to be the type. And then I say that it's loaded. Cool. We'll come back to that later. The data and the ref, the JSON data. So we'll just say skills, and then we'll make that part of our data object. Data return skills. It's a blank. Okay. And then what we want to do in our template is just loop through all our skills. So div class. We'll do a it's a v4. It's a loop of skill in skills, and a key of the skill dot title, and let's just print out. Let's try this. Skill dot title dash skill dot type. Let's close the div. Hit save. We're missing a close parentheses down there. All right, let's see if it works. Refresh. We're getting an error. Access to Oh, I have not made this sheet public. I need to change the restrictions so that it is general access. Kind of don't like. Hold on. Anyone with the link can view it, right? Okay, but they're not. But they can't edit it. So let's refresh now and see if that changed. Boom, there it is. That worked. You see on the screen here. I'll zoom in there for those of you that look at the thing. There it is. Oh, I need to peel off the. Hold on. I want to ignore the first. Well, sorry, it pasted the cell titles in there. But Fireball, Winter Wind, and Teleport are now in the game. So I'm pulling from a Google spreadsheet and displaying it in the game, which means that anyone who wants to can write content for this game, and they don't need to know coding. You just need to be able to fill out a Google spreadsheet. So any of the content that we do, spell names, item names, location names, quests, etc., rather than us building some sort of database for all that stuff, we're going to use Google spreadsheets for doing that sort of content stuff. Even some of the values for the prices of the upgrades and stuff like that, I'll also do it off of a Google spreadsheet. So this will allow us to build out the content of the game a lot faster, and I can have other people that are interested in helping out contribute without necessarily having to be programmers or needing access to the code or anything like that. You could just change values and then see it in the game. So I'm actually going to, great. Okay, I'm gonna do, let's see, I'm gonna add it, let's see, I did updating views, and I added a Google Sheet integration. The nice thing with the permissions on that Google Sheet, I mean, technically if you were to sniff the code and sniff the network traffic, you could see that I'm loading content from a Google spreadsheet, and you could even find the Google spreadsheet. So from a security point of view, it's like, oh my gosh. The truth is, even if you found the Google spreadsheet, what you'd be finding is this. And you wouldn't be able to edit it. You could just look at it. So that's the risk there, right? I could obfuscate it. I could put it through another endpoint, but it's like, whatever. Worst case, someone could see content. You could see all the items or all the upgrades or all the locations or all the spells, right? That's essentially it. That's the big risk with doing something like this. But you need to make sure you set up the permissions correctly, because if you make that it's editable by like the general public, they'd be able to change all the content in your game. To go into production with something. So by the way, there are a few games that I won't mention the name of the game, but some of the folks know the game. Yeah, a lot of content comes from the Google spreadsheets. This is a fine setup for a hackathon. If I was going to go into production, I would want a more secure middleman. I don't mind the content being hosted on a Google spreadsheet, but I wouldn't do a direct integration like this. I would bring the Google spreadsheet into an API. The API would handle some more authentication, authorization, and then pass along the data. So at the end of the day, you wouldn't know exactly where the data was housed, whether it was a database, a Google spreadsheet, or even just like a flat JSON file somewhere. So, but for right now, this is what we're going to do for the hackathon. So I want to thank everyone for watching. This is now 2.5 hours. This is great. We're going to pick it up tomorrow. And again, the plan focus mainly on our gathering loop, getting the loot, being able to spend the loot, the upgrades, and all that stuff, the handling of currencies and things like that. Making sure that makes sense. And then the goal for each week will be to, I'm going to switch back over to this for a second, just to touch on this. Here's our breakdown of all our functionality, right? And our schedule, the map, the upgrades, the combat, the battling, which we just spoke about, the multiplayer part, the boosts, which is our magic section, and then probably some sort of market, though we'll see how much of that we can fit in. We do have a month, but each week we want to make progress on each one of these categories, like some progress in all categories, with most of the emphasis for week 1 and 2 on the map and the upgrades, with week 3 and 4 being more the combat and the battle. So yeah, we'll continue. Tomorrow morning will be a big day of just grinding this out. So, all right, thank you everyone, and see you later. I'll be posting upgrades on the PBBG stream, but also feel free to join the Discord. That's where more discussion, because I don't want to spam anyone else's Discords. That's where more of the discussion, updates, etc. Especially now that Rinzai will be available tomorrow to help work on this. My Discord that you can see up at the slyboots.studio. You can get to the Discord link. That'll be the one for a lot more of the details and stuff like that. But yeah, so thank you everyone. Thanks for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for participating, giving me some good ideas and feedback. It'll be very, very welcome and encouraged in the days and weeks to come. So thank you, and have a good night.